Hi, welcome back to another edition of Relatable. I am your host, Michele. This is the show where we talk about exceptional human encounters, the people who make them happen, and the actions it takes to create them. Now, we are recording the show on a beautiful Saturday in downtown Los Angeles. It's Saturday, August 3rd. Today, I woke up thinking about I need to trick myself a little bit to think that I don't have a lot of work on my plate. I'm like, how can I do this? How can I trick myself into believing I'm on vacation while still managing to get work done? And this is what I found myself asking. What's not working for me? And what am I willing to explore to change how things are going on, or to explore some new possibilities? So if you're human like me, just thinking about change can make you a little nervous and probably a little resistant. So here's what I landed on to try to trick myself into, can I be in vacation mode and still get my stuff done? I'm spending a lot of time, I don't want to spend a lot of time worrying about big changes. So this is what I've decided to do. I'm going to experiment with a sequence of things. And here's what I mean by that. So I know you guys have heard me talk about, I hate my hair. I have very fine hair. It never does what I want it to do. It's really just sometimes the bane of my existence. And I sometimes will fix it too much, and I hate how it looks. And I've realized, if I just let it go, if I start another task and maybe, blow dry it and then just do something else and let it go, put some Velcro rollers on it. Guys are like, what are Velcro rollers right now? But just let it go. It tends to just work out. It tends to do what it's supposed to do, but it's like a sequence thing. If I spend too much time on it, it doesn't work. But if I try to put things in between finishing it, somehow it works out. I don't know. I like this idea of just messing around with sequence a little bit. I suspect some of you have a routine where everything and everybody comes first before you do anything for yourselves. So what if you changed the order of things? What if you started the day in meditation, or ate a breakfast slowly instead of eating it on the go, but did something for yourself? What else? Where else can we kind of change the sequence of things? Maybe it's how you're working, maybe it's how you're exercising, but let's just play with this sequence idea for a little bit. I suspect my guest today knows a lot about the willingness to change and explore sequence adjustments, because I know she works with clients and teaches them about things like this. So joining me today, and my cards are out of order. That has never happened before. There we go. Okay, joining me today in the studio is Carolyn Coolidge. She's a licensed psychotherapist, spiritual life coach, an intuitive, and a healer with 20 years of experience. Carolyn graduated from Columbia University. She has appeared on CNN International demonstrating energy healing with Dr. Oz. She also appeared on Christ Knows Best. I can see that he's kind of fun. Yeah, he's good. He's a humorous kind of guy, isn't he? Yeah, I can kind of see him in my head. Carolyn was a former faculty member at the Pediatrics Pain Program at UCLA, a complementary alternative medicine program where she performed hands-on healing with children in chronic pain. Carolyn has incorporated spiritual healing and practices into her work as a psychotherapist, including teaching mindfulness, meditation, energy awareness at major HMOs and psychiatric hospitals. She teaches metaphysical principles and how to work with the universe and to relieve stress. Her first book, Honoring Your Spirit, is a book about her own spiritual journey and how she used it to find her path and inspire others. Yes. I love that it's purple too. Yeah. Yeah. You like purple?
The crown chakra. Yes.
Yeah. Purple's a good thing. Well, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here today on a beautiful Saturday.
Yeah, it's great to come downtown.
Yeah.
This is wonderful.
Yeah. When's the last time you've been downtown?
You know what? Actually, just last week I went to that raw restaurant, Living Foods.
Oh, you were right here.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. It's the second time I'm here.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's a great place.
Yeah.
So, Carolyn, I sometimes ran at the beginning of the show about what's on my mind, and so I'd like to give you a chance, if there's anything pulling your attention, that you just want to share right now, what has your attention before we get into our interviews or anything?
I guess just the power of women right now with all the different things going on politically, and I really, think that is important this is a time of the creators. I've been thinking a lot about how to create my life, how to create different things, how to create, a different way of eating. That's why I went to the raw restaurant, or a different way of being in the world, being present, like you were saying, and how to like read a book mindfully, or to travel mindfully, and just to be more like aware, and also appreciate the time here on the planet, because it's so quick how people leave. Like a good friend of mine she's a wonderful crystal person, just said she's diagnosed with cancer and may pass. And I was like, wow, it was just really devastating. I was like, life is not, granted to us forever. So we have to appreciate the time. So appreciation, being mindful of the presence, and that what we can bring to our life, what gifts can we share while we're here.
All good messages. So you can relate to, like, you will change things up in your life to just really to help you stay more present.
I will. Like I'll change different things I do or where I go. Like I'll go to a different church sometimes, or a spiritual community, or I'll read different types of book. I love going to crystal places. I'll go to all the different ones to see. And I've been like really studying crystals on the side, and actually working with them, and like helping them heal me, and also just being more aware of the world, and how we're all interconnected, and that we have a lot of, and how the story keeps playing, over the story of trauma, and and the planet, and how we keep recreating these traumas. I was like, why aren't we learning that we all need to like take care of one another and help one another, and that this negativity that's out there is going to come back in some way. So what so I'm just, and I like to teach that everywhere I go.
Do you have a different sense of time and where we are, that this is a repeated lesson that we don't seem to get, and that there are bigger consequences at play right now? How do you feel about just the state of where everything is?
100%. Yeah. When I just seeing what's going on at the border, I think is horrendous, the way children are being treated and their families, etc. And then looking at the Holocaust, I just saw something on the History Channel, and how devastating that was, and really seeing the movies on that. There's another movie I just saw recently about that. And then, but there's how people are just, what happens in India or different places around the world, like different people, like we're constantly like killing each other and hating on each other. And I just feel like it's the same thing. It's the same thing going over. And Native Americans, the Trail of Tears, African Americans, and slavery, like this thing about like, destroying families and lives for greed, nothing more, nothing less. And I think if we all interconnected, there would be a lot more peace on the planet, and that there's enough for everyone. There really is. Abundance is like a natural part of the world.
If we protect it, I mean, from the environment standpoint, like it feels like if we came together and understood that we're all in this together, that yes, that we could protect it and make solutions where we were really managing our resources in a way that there was enough for everybody, and there would continue to be enough. Because I worry about, there is not enough. Like we're in a position where we really need to make some solutions right now for these things, but we're so distracted. It seems people are fighting and name calling, and not understanding that, like, that's your brother, like that's your sister, like why are you talking to him that way? Like
definitely,
it feels different to me. I mean, it feels like we're at a different time.
I think everything's breaking down so we can build it up, but it just feels like the same, like every group that's come has been maligned and put down like that, here. So I was just like, don't think, it's like people are not remembering what happened before. So it's like the same story. Even when the Pilgrims came over, they're running from the British. So they were escaping asylum. They were trying. So everyone was doing that. So like we forget history, and then we malign somebody or scapegoat for our own inconvenience, and I just think it's crazy, because my parents are immigrants. They're from South America, and like my parents grew up that way. My father and mother got scholarships to come here, so I kind of understand that. Like they were just, they were very nervous until my mother became a teacher. Is she going to have papers to stay here? And a lot of people are like, oh, you don't understand. I said, yeah, my parents were immigrants. Like people don't realize that, and a lot of Brooklyn is, a lot of where I grew up in Connecticut, but in Brooklyn there's a lot of West Indians there, and a lot of the rappers, Trinidadian, Tobago, they're all immigrants. So yeah, most of the world, most of America is, but I grew up with that same kind of awareness that, this is a great place to be, but that they had to work hard, and they had a really, a strong mentality. But my mother always talked about being deported. So until she got a degree, got a certain visa to be here. So that was something I grew up with. So, and a lot of people don't know that,
That it just kind of keeps coming back.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to talk so much about politics. I want to enjoy your company. But we politicize every opinion and every issue. And then and so people use it to kind of, I don't know, bring certain people together to say, okay, I'll do this for you. But but there's always somebody left out in that kind when you're talking about an issue that doesn't affect everybody. Like the way that people communicate, politicians communicate it is so hateful. Like it's it's like weapon. Like it feels like they're weaponizing issues, and then therefore we get weaponized against each other.
100% hate mongering. I used to work. I worked on the Hill, and like when I was 24 years ago. Yeah, I was working in DC at an economic research firm, and I ended up working there. And was studying the problems with African American males, and they used the word racial profiling was the big word that was public, was in '92, whatever. And it was just so vicious there. When I worked, I was young, but it was like so like we were working on the Democratic committee, and then somebody like stole our information to give the Republican. Yeah, somebody stole my car. It was crazy. So I really saw it firsthand. Like I've been there.
They stole your passport?
Paperwork. Our paperwork. And they want to know. This woman came, and it was an African American group, and she was African American. She came in, and then she pretended like she was forced. She was actually a Republican. She stole our information so she could tell what we were studying, what we were doing, and what we we're going to present. And we had like 6 senators came. We were on C-SPAN, and it was studying, the how African American males are really, targeted in society. And then she wanted to know, and actually Joe Biden was one of the people came into the committee room, the Senate committee room. But it was just unbelievable. I said, wow, they are I just could not believe this is how DC worked. But it was a great experience to be there. The guy who did, one of the men who was doing the whole thing, he did the walk on Washington. Oldfield Dukes, he did, and it was just interesting to be part of the Black Caucus, and you never had it, and because my boss, I was a temp in her company. She was a woman that worked in Upper Northwest, and she just liked my background, and she said, "Oh, you should got to be part of it," and that's how I got into work on the Hill. It was cool.
That's a great experience to have, like to really see, because we think watching it's just got to be nonsense, but to have this like inside peek of like, this is not right. Like how they're talking to people and interacting and stealing. Like,
I know. I couldn't believe it because he was the last person. We had this young white guy that worked there, and they're like, "Oh, he's an infiltrator," and he wasn't the one. It was the black woman. It was the infiltrator that was coming. It was just like a game, and it was just like a movie. I couldn't believe it.
And I wonder if someone really paid her, like to really kind of go against her.
She really like stole the information, stole my car, and just drove it off and got the info. I cannot believe that even happened. I would look back. She's like, "I told you never to leave your car keys." I'm like, "This is like espionage." It was crazy, and it wasn't even that deep. It was just we had Blair Underwood came and testified. Colin Powell was there at the time. It was a great, we got a lot of great people. Some black men that worked at major companies that would talk about different things and about how they're treated. So we had a lot of important people there, and it was just really interesting to see how if they don't have their suit on, their tie, they're still targeted. So that was interesting. Yeah, that was years ago, and the word racial profiling became very public after that. It was run under Governor Wilder at the time, the first black governor of Virginia, and it was a conference of Commission on African American Males. So it was interesting years ago, and we're still working. I know years later, but it was really powerful that she did it then, and to see that this is that I worked on Wall Street as a therapist, but I also worked there, and I say DC was the worst. Yeah, even Wall Street's vicious, but it was the worst.
Wow.
I mean, in terms of the education and the history is beautiful and brilliant, but just how it's hardball. They're playing for hardcore issues, and how it's like the locus of the power of the.
They must just get into as an energy worker now. Looking back at this, I'm glad we're talking about this. Actually, that you must kind of see that it's like this energy of just doing that, of being in that vicious cycle of not even stopping to go, look, these are humans. You share the actual same building, you're in the same space and time, and you're just coming in, and it's just about you winning over that, and someone has to lose. That dynamics of win-lose, our policy or your policy, that. I wonder how many people actually stop to think when they're in it, that they're you're just you're in a culture that has said that this is the way that we have to do things, but who's challenging the culture of that? Like,
right, no one, because you're part of it. Yeah, they're right in the middle of it.
Like,
and that's why there are some people out there doing it, which I thought Marianne Williams was brilliant, the other day, was talking about it. But it is weird. It is part of this, it kind of reminds me of a big frat house in some ways, and that like they're fighting and who's going to be, the coolest person on the campus kind of feeling, but it's just unbelievable. And I was going to go to law school and I said, okay, that's enough.
That's not.
Not doing it, I was going to get an MBA later. I was like, okay, this is not for me. Like my sensitive soul I could not believe that people would just, smile and then lie and just get what they wanted. But it was a great experience, and it was very interesting. And I just see, so like when I see what's going on there, I'm like, okay, I know what they're doing. I know what's going on. And it's like that because it's power. It's really power. You see it in politics, you see it in Hollywood, you see it everywhere. It's like the ego and the spirit, this fight. I decided to go on the spirit side. But the ego is still very present on the earth plane.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Wish there was a way that we could work together, those two things. And I'm sure there is. I mean, if more people just stopped. Like, I think that's ridiculous, these debates and how they're 20 candidates and they're really quickly kind of tearing each other apart, or my policy is better than yours. And but if all of them could come together and say, this is not even the right way to do it. Like, let's shift how we're doing this. Just because we've done it over and over and over and over and over again, doesn't mean it's the right way of doing things. The world has evolved a lot. Like, this is not what we need. We need to, I think they should show us the voters, these candidates in a room with a problem, working together to solve the problem. So we can see how they work, we can see what they know, we can see how they treat each other. Like, that would be a better way to pick somebody, right? Than to see them kind of break each other down
100%.
on stage.
Yeah, like the debate team. Because it's not about love and compassion, and that's it's like more the spiritual thing. But I really feel like there's going to be a shift coming up in 2020, not in terms of the election, but just in terms of, because we're seeing the darkness of the government's coming out in front of us. Everyone's really seeing it now very clearly, 24/7 now with all the phones and everything else that's around. And I just feel like there's going to be some kind of shift.
Do you feel it's going to be a shift where it's just complete breakdown to then start again, or is there?
Well, I feel like something's going to happen. I feel personally that a lot of things are breaking down. The government, food, manufactured food, manufactured seeds, school systems, all the strikes, mental health. And I work as a mental health counselor. All the different strikes, different things going on. The way women are treated, an awareness of gender. And I just feel like there's a lot of truth coming up to the surface. And it's almost like we're waiting for this time. And I think it's a shift. It's definitely a shift from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, which people have been, predicting for a while. But I heard there's a transit from the shaman. So there was an 8-year transit from 2012. The Venus went direct down. It's going down the Milky Way galaxy, which is a canal. And it's literally like the birth canal, and it ends in 2020. It gets direct, and I'm not sure where because I'm not an astrologer, but it's the birth canal, and then the Milky Way galaxy represents mother's milk. So it's a time of the divine feminine really entering on the planet. So more compassion, and women's image of, is usually a circle. The womb is a circle, the body is a circle, and men is a line. Circles create the wholeness, not negating men at all, but the wholeness. Men are like one thing after the other, the assertion, moving forward. That's where a line is. So the circle it's balancing out the male dominance of bringing back everyone together. There's so many more record women in Congress, record women going to medical school and all the other places. So women creating. So I think it's the Aquarian age is the time of the creator. So creating the divine feminine, which is really, and men can create divine feminine. That means being a magical creator. There's also the divine masculine, which is being pioneering, assertive, strong, but not, aggressive and abusive. And women can be loving, compassionate, and nurturing, and not manipulative, sneaky, or this. There's always negative and positive of the divine feminine, divine masculine. So I just feel like there's more of this time to create. Everything is breaking down. So us powerful spirits can say, I want to create better food. I want to create a different school system. I want to create something that helps people in mental health, maybe using herbs or other stuff, or ayahuasca or peyote. I think it's very interesting that there's such, negativity, towards Latino culture right now, but a lot of their ancient healing practices, indigenous practices, even the Native Americans, uses, peyote and ayahuasca and all these different, herbs that can people have said have really helped them in many ways. Yes, and there's natural food. So I just feel like it's everyone's time in the sun, and now the spotlight's on them. People are going to start studying the culture and learn more about this stuff and kind of give it power. The Jews went through it in the 40s, and then the African Americans went through it in the 60s. Like every group goes through this time. Every group, the Celtics, the Druids, every group. But I just feel like there's a lot of different things springing up because I'm working and teaching in mental health. And I'm teaching privately. I teach at a meditation center. And I ask people, what are you really here for? And they all have a divine purpose that's bigger than just making money. It's helping their fellow man on some level and like recreating these systems that are breaking down.
That makes me feel hopeful.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. So when you said everybody's working on what they can create, are you leaned into something? Like what is your thing that you really feel strongly about creating?
Mine is the purple energy. Mine is helping people to create their purpose.
Yeah.
I feel like
bringing more people into spiritual awareness.
Yes. I feel like that's why I worked in DC. That's why I worked on the Hill. That's why I worked on, in Wall Street, because I worked in all these places that are considered very male and dominant and dark in a sense, but brought some kind of light. And then also working in mental health at a major HMO, which a lot of people have negative feelings about, but I teach people about chakras and auras and their intuition and crystals, and they love it because we're all spirits. Yeah. So it's like bringing the awareness of our spiritual nature back into the real world because we put the spirit aside. It's like a shadow. It's there, but I can barely see it. But I want to bring it to the forefront, and it wasn't easy. I did it.
And I heard you say, did you say this off camera? Or no, you said on camera. You talked about church. So there is some of the challenges in bringing people to spirit because of the relationship that they've had with a religion that wasn't quite working for them. Like, is that so there's a tendency to throw out all spirit or all acceptance or openness to spirit because they experienced it through a religion that didn't really connect to. Is that kind of the I said it in my book. I said people are detoxing from Judaism or overcoming Catholicism or something. And mind you, my father's a minister and he was Episcopalian and he became the third black Episcopal bishop in the United States. And the guy Curry who did the Meghan Markle's wedding is my dad's friend. Oh, cool.
Yeah, because he was an Episcopal bishop. So I grew up in Connecticut, very conservative, old money waspy, and my father had the spirit about him. He was from South America. He was an immigrant. And through asking God and praying and meditating and working hard, he was able to create this inspiration that people, he didn't take anything for granted because he had nothing when he came here. He was pretty much at one point homeless for a couple weeks while he came here. And he just felt like God was the only thing they could turn to. So a lot of people with all this old money were like, wow, this story is interesting. And then they just were inspired by his speeches and he became the first bishop. And he was at a Yale Divinity School. So I grew up in the church and I respect the church, but people have had bad experiences and limitation. Now these systems breaking down. The spirit is what connects us all because we all are spirits. So just making it more global, that they have the power to work with the universe. When I say the universe, I really meant God, but a lot of people have been triggered by the word God. So they're like, I can see universe, I don't see God. And the universe is a song, universe. So we all have a verse in this unified field. So we all do our purpose. We're able to kind of create this harmony, this music, this what strikes a chord in us. We are energy beings, so all this energy is really powerful. And then we're able to kind of harmonize each other and harmonize. Yeah. I think everyone has a piece to the world peace. We have a piece of the puzzle to create peace. That's why it's the same word. Yeah. So I really
love that.
Yeah. So this is the kind of stuff that I teach and I've been passionate about and had a lot of experience with and really bringing spirit and honoring spirit, because then I feel like I'm clearing my karma and helping other people clear the karma. I'm bringing harmony journey, teaching people about their soul, because I feel like we come here to learn and to grow. This is a university. That's why they call it the universe, these same names. And everything's like right in front of us, but we don't see it. So we're here. So when you look at things as lessons, like, why did that happen? Like, why did I go to DC? And I was like, oh, now I know I went to DC to learn about this or that, to be able to just speak from a really conscious awareness of what happened there and what I learned, or Wall Street, and how people make a lot of money but feel sad inside. So it's not about money. And money, I think money's great. If it's clean money, I was thinking about clean money, dirty money. But like,
I do too, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because I've had client, that I didn't feel good about, like I was doing good work, but I didn't feel good about the person, and it made it. And I would watch myself spend that money.
Wow,
like,
interesting.
I wouldn't want that money sitting in any, like, I would in most cases would reinvest it and go see somebody like you or do something, like holistic or cool. But I didn't. It took me a while to pick up when I was doing. I'm like, why am I not doing so well with my finances? Because I wasn't saving, because I didn't want to keep that money around me.
Because it has like energy. Money's really energy.
Yeah.
That's so interesting, because I was working with a client and she was into different types of work, which I didn't really respect. But then I said, well, Jesus worked with, prostitutes and this, that, allegedly, and other stuff. So I said, I'm going to be like Christ, and I'm going to work with everyone and not judge. So, but then some of the stuff she said was really kind of unethical.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't really relate to that. So after the session, it was very strange. It was like $215 at the time. I parked at this one place. This place lets me park there. They changed management. I didn't know. I was away for a week, and they towed my car. It never happened. I was so angered. And when I didn't take Uber at the time. I took a taxi because I didn't have Uber. And the taxi was $15, and the tow was $200. The exact money that she gave me was taken away. I had to pay it back.
Wow.
I know.
Wow, that blows my mind.
Isn't it? And a taxi, what taxi is actually $15?
Yeah.
Like exactly 15. And I was like, it was the same day after her session, and I said, okay, the universe saying no, I can't work with you.
And I think that also is a good time to talk about discernment then. So like there are, when you and I talked about this on the phone, I'm definitely an empath. I definitely feel things. And when I was young, I used to, the way that people would respond to that was, you're really sensitive or you're really judgmental. And I didn't really know, I didn't have the language or the tools to say, well, blah, but this is why I'm doing it. And we do need to pay attention to like how we feel with each other, or, how you feel about something, because like that, that things like that happen because it's not the right flow. It's not, you're not writing the right verse with the person, right?
Exactly. And it could also be that I wasn't the person to help her.
Yeah.
Like maybe if I had grown later, I would have. But some of the stuff she was unethical. I don't think I could have. But interestingly enough, I ended up going to an event where she was doing work, and I didn't know she was there. This was fairly recently, but it was interesting. I couldn't get parking. I kept going in circles and circles and circles. And my friend invited me, and I had no idea she was going to be there. And then I called her. I said, I can't make it. She goes, well, just come for the after party. I came to the after party, and there she was. I was like, that's why I couldn't come in, because she knew that I knew, and it would have been uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I just feel like and what's interesting is that I was in Santa Monica, and I did not want to park in a restricted park because I know they ticket there. Yeah. So I said, I can't go there. So I went to Whole Foods to come back later. And when I went to Whole Foods, I backed up and hit my car against the wall. I was doing a turn, and I know that message. I always talk about car therapy, that cars teach you about your life, because we're like car vehicles. And it was, don't go back. And I went back. there. It's like, don't go back. Like, don't go backwards. You'll get hurt or you'll get hit. So I went back, and there she was. I was like, oh, that's why I wasn't supposed to be there. And I teach people this, and I do it, but I love learning all the time. And that's how the universe, it teaches me all the time, all these different experiences. I pay attention. I use discernment. I have to get, and sometimes when I don't get it, I have to wake up. There was only a little scratch, which is interesting, but I just feel like it was more the message than the accident. Yeah,
definitely. So can we talk about your childhood, or can I ask you about your childhood? So hearing all this and just kind of knowing how you experience life and the kind of work that you do, were there signs to you as a child that you had these gifts that allowed you to see, yeah, this is probably the work that I'll end up doing? Like,
yeah, absolutely not. It was weird. No, I'm just kidding. No, it was weird. Well, I guess, yeah, and I look back, it was. I remember one time my father hired a minister, and I was like about 9. I was like, I don't like that person. And my mother's like, don't be so negative. Now, my mother was very psychic. She had dreams, though she's a science teacher. She had dreams that came true. And I said, I don't know, there's something creeped me. And there was something within my energy, because this minister was a woman, kept looking at me, like felt like I could look through her, and I just didn't like her. And then later, maybe about 6 months later, there was a big controversy with her. And my father's like, wow, you were right. And I said, yeah, I know, you guys are saying I was negative, and I was right about it. So that was a piece. And then I remember my father, we're going to church, since he had a church as a minister, and there was a little bird outside on the ground. And I was like, oh, the baby birds had fallen. I said, Dad, you got to get the birds up. And he couldn't find the nest. He goes, I got to go to church. I said, you got it. And I was screaming, crying. And I was like, you got to get the baby birds. So I put them up. And then finally he's like, okay, there's the nest. And the mother bird was like flying around upset. And I realized how sensitive I was. Yeah. So looking at stuff like that, yeah, definitely. I saw maybe one ghost, but it wasn't like all the time. But yeah, and then later I used to go where we travel. I would say, thank you, walls. Thank you, walls. Thank you, sofa. Thank you, the hotel for giving us nights. And I was like healing, like thanking the energy in the space. And my father said, yeah, I remember you used to do that when you were little. And then Larry's an energy healer. And when he used to do the last rites, and he'd go, from that dust to earth, and he would take me around dust to earth. When I do Reiki, it's kind of a similar symbol. Yeah. So little things like that, I guess now that I look back, yeah, definitely. But it wasn't as strong as, it was like, I was smart. So you're going to go to my mother wanted me to go to medical school or get a law degree or an MBA.
Well, and that's back to your story about her, because her being an immigrant and knowing that she had to have a degree to be safe here, to not, to be protected. So she was really kind of making sure you were going to be okay. Like, I want you to be educated. I want you,
projection. The funny thing is, my mother used to say when I was in her womb, she'd say, wow, this is my healer. And in her culture, healer is doctor. And then I said, well, I am a healer, so next time be more specific. Because I heard her, so I became a healer,
Do your parents understand, was there ever a time period where they're like, you're doing, this healing thing is not what we expected for you? Were they always supportive, or were they a little like?
They were a little, yeah. Well, it's interesting because my mom, who's passed on about 2 years ago, she had a dream. She's a psychic pretty much, and she had a dream my father would become the first Black bishop. So she said, I have this dream. He goes, no way. We're in Connecticut. There were 3 Black churches and 180 white churches. He goes, I'm not going to be bishop. And he goes, no, they're going to knock on the door. And then within 2 days, bam, 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 somebody knocks and said, Bishop, we've been loving your work in Connecticut, and we really are inspired. Everyone's talking about your speeches and your stories that he had. Like having no money and like begging God, and then meeting a fellow immigrant from South America that gave him like $20 so he can like eat for a week. He ate an apple or something. So they had all these stories. So they were very inspired. So then he did run, and he ran, and he made it. He, just as she said, on the 3rd ballot, and he won on the 3rd ballot, and he ended up being head of Yale Divinity School, because in Connecticut, the Episcopal Church owns Yale Divinity School. And, he just ended up doing really well. He has a scholarship fund. My father is a social worker. So when I became a social worker, he was the one that says, you're really intuitive, and, you should become a therapist. And he kind of convinced me. My mother's like, no, she needs to be a science teacher I go to medical school, because she got into 5, but because she was an immigrant, she couldn't get a scholarship. And that was in the 1950s, of Black women getting into 5 medical schools. So, there was this fight, like, what is she going to do?
But now I think you've appeased both of them. Like, you
do. Exactly, because I teach.
Yeah, you teach.
I use metaphysics, which is science. Yeah. And then my father's a social worker, and then he's a minister, so I feel like I minister to people. Yeah. It's kind of cool.
When you got your therapist degree, when did you start seeing that in order for you to serve the way that you want to serve, like to really do the work and like impact people in a way that you want to leave your legacy behind, right? When did you see the healing stuff was really needed? Was there a moment that you're like, I've got to add some other stuff here? Like, people need more tools than just traditional therapy.
Yeah, and that's the trick of the universe, because when I was studying at Columbia, I was around 27 to 28, and that's your Saturn return. That's the time when the planet Saturn comes in your chart. It really hits at 29.5, because we go through soul cycles. and this plan of maturity, life lessons, and life path. So it really pushes you, everything pushes you to do your path if you pay attention. So around the time I would wake up at Columbia and I'd see ghosts, and that never happened before ever in my life. I would see ghosts everywhere, and I would just wake up, they were shaking my bed, and they look like you do. They look like a physical person just sitting there, hey, how are you? And it's usually in the middle of the night, and they were like, I have a question. I'm like, it's like afterlife therapy.
Who are you? I have a question, how'd you get in my room?
Exactly. And I was in Columbia's in Harlem, 116th Street, so I was at 110th Street, and there's like people just showing up in my apartment. I was terrified.
Oh my God.
But they looked, but I knew they were ghosts because I was like, there's no way somebody could come in. And they had a strong but etheric feeling. And I saw these three muses. I didn't know they were real, and they're like people who are creative. I saw this Asian man who floated in. He was like looking at me, and I kept asking the universe, like, what am I supposed to do with like this therapy stuff? And then I was wondering, like, well, how can I combine both, you know, like, because I was very interested in that. I had a health crisis at 24, so now I was 28, so I was into, like, holistic health and other things, but it goes through, like, something new. So I ended up asking the universe, well, what am I supposed to do? So I'd walk down in Manhattan, and people come up to me and say, excuse me, do you know where 34th Street? And I would tell them. And another person would say, do you know where this is? Do you know World Trade Center? So one weekend was 5 people, and then another weekend was 10. Then I went up to 12, and I went with my friend, it was up to 18. And I kept, what am I supposed to be doing with all these people? Like I don't understand how I'm supposed to do psychic work, and I'm definitely psychic. And then I had, you know, like psychotherapists, and how are we supposed to go together? And then my friend looked at me, she said, you're helping people find their path. That's why people were coming to me, and I was showing them where to go. And the universe literally, figuratively, in the, you know, the earth plane gave me an answer, and I said, oh, that's how I was supposed to combine it. The only way I did both of it, because to hear voices and see things can make you go to the loony bin. Being, you know, sitting at the most conservative social work school, Columbia. So I had to keep asking the universe.
Did you feel like, could you talk to anybody about that at the time, or did you keep that to yourself?
I called my mom, and I said, Mom, I said, I saw a ghost. And I said, oh my God, I know what's going on. She was like, oh, okay, I see ghosts all the time. She's like, Mom, my grandmother, she's like, God. She was really like, okay, great. When are you coming home? And I was like, how are you doing in school? I was like, I'm seeing ghosts. I don't know what to do. She's over here like, God. She was, oh, Carolyn, that's nothing, you know? And it was just funny. So she kind of normalized it for me. And she talked about all her experiences seeing ghosts and stuff. So that helped me know that it wasn't that crazy. And then down the line, when I ended up on CNN, my father, when he saw it, he's like, oh, my grandmother was like that. She used to, my mother was like that, my grandmother, I never met her. He's like, she used to do that. So both sides.
Yeah.
So then it was very normalized, and then, but it wasn't until I was on CNN and a little bit later, I was always a therapist, but I would do the stuff on the side. And one time I pulled out the tarot deck. My mother's like, oh, the tarot deck, let me see that. So they just did, they wanted like an immigrant mentality to do very well and to make good money and to be secure. So it was interesting, but they said, nobody makes money off of that. She goes, you pay people to teach you to be intuitive? My mother was like, why would you do that? That's natural. You don't just pay people, you know? So it was interesting. And then my father has, his grandmother there's a lot of Indians in Guyana, where they're from. So she's East Indian. So she used to have spirit circles. And she used to call, doing with Hindu goddess, like calling in spirits. He said he literally felt them come through the walls. He was like 5 years old. My father's 88 now. And he said he could feel them. And it was like this weird. So when they started telling me little experiences like that, I said, oh, this is part of my genetic fabric.
Yeah,
and it's
definitely
not, you know, weird, and, you know, it's just part of who we are.
I think the best part of that story for me is hearing how, as you were experiencing something new, how you did have somebody, and thank God it was your mom, that you could call and that would normalize it for you. And I think that's the relationship that we should have with each other, and like really take advantage of our interdependence, that when someone to know that you can call someone, and when someone actually normalizes like your crisis a little bit, like that's such a gift. Like, you know, in that moment, if someone didn't do that for you, you could have squashed your gifts, right? So like
going crazy,
or that, right?
Yes.
You know, and it does happen. I mean, people not being in support, like I do believe that I believe everything's connected, actually, you know, and I do believe that there are relationships that we can have with people that are not here anymore, and And I think right now we need to have those relationships because not a lot of people seem to have it figured out on Earth right now. Like, let's just be real about it, So like bringing in this collective history, like where you started your story, like we just keep repeating the same thing over and over again, and we need to be reminded of that. And probably a lot of those reminders can come through some sort of divine experience or spiritual encounter
that makes it real, that there's a totality to our life plan. And then also ancestors. I think that's why Black Panther did so well, the movie where they talked about the ancestors. I think, the focus on the indigenous cultures and in Mexico, and also in, Native Americans who worship the ancestors, and that our ancestors do, like, okay, yeah, I've been there, done that. And they can come in dreams or messages. My mother's come to me in many messages when she's passed on. I think that's important, and then also the totality of that this is a cycle, that we come here, we learn, and then we move on. We come here, we learn, and a lot of cultures done that. They've, there's May Day, there's every culture has that, and it, has that connection to knowing
Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead, and the sun, the maypole. There's different ways of looking at it, but they worshipped beings of light or goddesses or energy, and I've been having experiences with an ascended master came to me in a dream, and it was interesting, and he's been giving me information, and was all coming through meditation and just realizing that there's and Paramahansa Yogananda, he came to me. It was really weird. Like, I've had all these strange experiences, and I think it's really opened up through my meditation, teaching it, and helping other people to respect their totality of the soul. I think also being in a mental health facility in several, and being intuitive, and a lot of people get hospitalized because they think they're losing their mind. And in my book I talk about losing your mind or finding the divine, and sometimes it's the same thing, and it's like they lose their mind, the breakdown is a breakthrough, and that a lot of times they're opening up to their truth. So I don't know how many people, I worked at a partial hospitalization. The psychiatrist was a healer. The pharmacist was an intuitive and a healer. I was intuitive, so we would normalize. I saw shadows. I saw my uncle. I saw my grandma. That's okay. Now, if the person's telling you to kill people, that's not good.
Right.
So we make the difference, psychic or psychotic. What's the difference? Psyche is of the mind. Psychic is of the soul. So now I think just like everything else is merging, we're merging these two aspects of ourselves, the ego and the spirit. And I hope to be part of that dialogue to help to incorporate both of it.
Oh, you definitely are. Yeah, I definitely feel that you are. Is there something in your work or where we are right now in this world, is there something that you wish everybody knew about spirit, or is there a misconception that you want to clear up to, like, just really invite people to explore the space? Like, what's the message for people that are cut off from spirit, maybe?
Yes.
To invite them in.
Yes, that's a great question. That's a wonderful question. I feel spirit is, everything is given to me. I feel it's more simplistic than people think. It's part of the energy inside of us. It's like a rainbow or a prism. It's energy, and that it actually directs our life. So I've used it in the book. I talk about it like spirit is an acronym for your guiding force in life. The S would be whenever you see synchronicity and signs, that is your spirit talking to you. Your spirit is here to lead you. It's like there's a rudder on the ship, but it's like the way that guides you in life. There's cruise control, and I feel like there's your spirit, and then there's like driving, which is your ego. So if you go on cruise control and trust your spirit, it will lead you. So the S is the synchronicity and signs. The P is that your spirit's going to lead you to your purpose. Your purpose is what you're passionate about. So any little thing you're passionate about, I ask people in groups all the time in mental health, I love helping children, I help the elderly, I love helping people, teach, or, at-risk youth. And I said, that's what you need to be doing, and the universe will help you. So what's P? Your purpose and your passion. The I is the language of spirit is intuition. So whenever you have your intuition chills, aha moments, or a dream of an ancestor, that's your intuitive nature, and that's the language of spirit speaking to you. The other I is the intelligence of spirit. The universe is very intelligent. It created giraffes and mooses and, like the body system and
beautiful flowers.
Flowers.
How can you not look at plants and flowers and not think there's a God.
Exactly.
Or the mountains and the deserts. And,
Exactly. Or incredible food and the body parts, the way it works,
Colors
and how.
of everything.
Exactly. Like God is a master artist. So that intelligence, I want to tap into that.
Totally.
Just like a great artist. I'm like, I wanted some of that. So I dialogue with this being of light who created this masterpiece, basically, that we're living in.
Yeah.
So that's the I, the other I. The other R is renew and rejuvenate. So you have to renew yourself by going to nature. Nature's a natural healing aspect of us. Again, it's beautiful, but some of the smells of flowers help us. If you take a flower essence, that can actually help heal you. There's certain like rescue remedy. So there's so many multiple levels of spirit. So that's the R, renew, rejuvenate. And also, like, besides going to nature, I love saging and smudging the field and using.
Some sage in here.
I saw that, yeah. And essential oils, which are nature, which help to, to heal you. So you have to do that regularly to keep your spirit, that energy part of you, like highly attuned and clear. It's almost like an antenna. So you got to like constantly like fluff it up and keep it,
I love to do a little peppermint right back here on my neck sometimes when I need to wake up or just kind of be reminded.
Yes.
Reminded that this thing is connected to this thing, because a lot of times I'm just ahead. I forget.
Yes,
there's a body. What's going on down there? You know, you get too intense with your work, so that sometimes helps.
That's great.
The peppermint to because we'll start to tingle and I'll go, I got a body.
Exactly. Yes. I put lavender on my arm.
I love lavender too.
And in mental health, when people are depressed, sometimes I have them smell this oil called courage. It's and then also like lavender. And a part of our brain where the smell lies and where our emotions lies are right next to each other. So that's the quickest way for you to emotionally heal, even before meditation, medication, the 6 weeks. So that's a renew, rejuvenate. And then the other I is inspirational. And anything that inspires you is your spirit leading you, like if it's music or sound or art or creativity. And then the other I is insightful. We have a gift and a passion or purpose. You're more insightful than other people. Like you may be more insightful in this kind of show, or you're insightful in your art or whatever it may be. So there's always a gift, and that insight's a little bit different than everyone else's. And then the last, the T is the truthful. Your spirit's always truthful with you, and you have to trust it. So when the spirit leads you, trust it, and your path will open up. The right people at the right time.
Do you cover that in here?
I do.
I do. That was so. I mean, I feel inspired just hearing you say that. Nice. It was so beautiful.
Good, yes. And Spirit gave it to me. I'm like, how can I? Because I'd ask people, what is your spirit and mental health? And they crickets. So I was like, okay, I need an acronym, something simplistic. These are people that are depressed and anxious. And Spirit while I was writing, just gave it to me. I was like, this is perfect.
It's so perfect.
Yeah, it really just remember that whenever you get those tings or those pings or those signs or synchronicity, my spirit wants to, come and,
it's making a call.
Me.
It's trying to text you.
Absolutely. Text. Yeah.
Well, I think this is a good time to ask the big question that we ask every guest on the show, coming from that. So I talk about exceptional human encounters because of everything else that we just talked about, of experiencing politics and the disarray and the divides and things that are happening in the world. And so, my hope in doing the show, first of all, I say this is my fuel, like just the joy to be able to look at someone and hear their story and look in their eyes and and feel their energy. Like it's something that I carry with me. I got to do that. I took the time to do it. So, and I believe that we are missing opportunities to have exceptional human encounters with each other when we don't slow down and do this. So the big question is, when I say this term, exceptional human encounters, what does that mean to you?
Wow, that's a deep question.
Yeah.
Exceptional human encounters. Ooh, I always think of that in terms of doing my karma, my dharma, maybe, not my karma, and really like helping somebody that needs help.
Yeah.
I think I'll give an example of one woman I was at. Sometimes doing spirituality and mental health is always tricky because, I am a psychic and anyone could find me and say, oh, that's inappropriate. What is she doing that? And that's happened to me before. So I always ask the universe, should I do this? Should I do this? Give me signs. And then people come to me. But one time I was doing that, I was off. I was walking to Ralph's and I got some food and I sat outside. And this homeless woman sat next to me, and she was just sitting there talking to me and kind of like mumbling something. I said, oh, that sounds like a chant. She goes, oh, I used to chant. I used to do this. She told me her whole life was really sad. And I lost my money, I lost my rent, I lost my house, and I had no place to live. And I said, but you ever thought about chanting of abundance? She's like, there was a chant of abundance. I was thinking, I can't remember it. So I said, I know it. So I gave it to her. It's Lakshmis Chance. And I wrote it down for her. And she said, oh my God. She's like, I was just asking God, am I going to get out of this? Give me a sign that somebody sees me or hears me. And I just asked, give me a sign that this stuff really helps people.
Yeah.
And then we met at Ralph's on Wilshire, and she started to cry and I teared up and I was like, wow. So she's like, I'm going to keep chanting. I'm going to keep chanting. I couldn't remember what it was. As a social worker, I said, have you ever heard of this program? She goes, no. I said, there's an opening now for some housing, da-da-da-da. I gave it to her. She said, I can go into that. I am a vet. I am this and that. And then she went, I guess, and I've never, saw her again, whatever. But just the fact that rare encounter, I thought that was really the universe helping us.
Perfect example of it. I mean, everybody shares something totally different, but it ends up being the same. And it's like knowing you were in the right time, the right place, that encounter was mutually meant for both parties, like for you and her, and you got answers and she got answers. Like, that's it.
Yeah, it's like someone's listening.
Yeah, that's it. And I truly believe if like all of the things that we've talked about and like leaning into your work and exploring these things, that we actually are in control of how many of these encounters we can have in a day. Like you could have one in the elevator when you leave today, but like being aware and being available and being present with people just increases the chances of having those type of encounters where you get goosebumps, go, yes, I needed that.
And that's what we're here for. We're all kind of earth angels.
Yeah.
That's beautiful to have that in your heart, to put it out there as an intention.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to what we said earlier. I have dreams where I see humanity as like a split-in commercial, where it's weird that I ranted about my hair today too, because it's my hair. It's about my hair always. But just the cuts, the sever, like we are connected, but how many cuts and like really frayed parts along that connection are visible. And and it looks so scary. When they magnify a hair that's all split, it looks so scary. It's scaled. It's not fluid. It's not a circle. It's not. So I'm concerned. I feel that we need to start seeing each other. Like you're my sister. You're my. I'm supposed to do something with you, or we need to support each other. And so it is important to kind of think that. To put out that energy that's available to us right now. Like in the middle of everything else, like almost everything that we experience right now is fear-based. You watch the news, it's so incredibly fearful. It creates anxiety, social media, just all of the noise and things that are coming to us. It's so full of fear, and like I can't even tell you the last time someone told me they were in love, or if you think about it, like I mean I hear I hear more of the challenges of dating and being single and how nobody's really leaning into like connection really matters. So
it's weird, isn't that weird? There's like 7 million people on the planet, and there's this sense of isolation and non-connection, and not people going with their natural energy of ourselves, which is love. Well, because it's all distraction. I mean, when you have the noise and the digital aspect in between all of that, I think that like if there is a frequency that connects us, like you said, like a verse that we're supposed to harmonize with. If you think about technology being in the middle of that harmonizing factor trying to happen, it's like the frequency's trying to cut through it, right? So texting is that. And I think too many of us rely too much on that as the form of communication between each other and relationships. And so it's cutting into like, wait, we're supposed to harmonize together. Like you can't hear me, you can't see my face when I'm saying this to you. You don't really know all of the things that are supposed to be connecting here, right? Yeah, this is because when I teach meditation, and that's the main thing. I said, tear off your cell phones, because a lot of times when we're in this great meditative state, bing, and it just brings everyone out. I said, see, you're distracted. Now you're into that world. Who was that? Da, 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 da. So I tell them to turn it off, and I feel like the rise of meditation centers is an antidote to all the texting and everything else and all the cell phones. Definitely. Like it's like a distraction to hearing your own spirit. It's like, what is somebody else's opinion? Your energy is always going out and not inwards. So.
And they purposely tech companies, when they were creating apps, or creating the technology that's in our phones, they were purposely doing it in a way that would release dopamine. So you would start to...
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that.
And so, you think about all the alerts on your phone, like when you have an Instagram message or Facebook. I have them all turned off. And I've said it a bazillion times before, turn all the alerts off on your phone. But they're meant to like go, oh, who is it? Oh, it might be that person or whatever. And so then you're living up here in that, oh, I got to get another dose of that. And then that becomes the addiction, not this.
That is so interesting.
Yeah. So there are great people. I'll share some things with you after the show that have actually realized their role in being the social architects and the developers of this digital space that are now on record saying we went too far. We went too far, so there are great campaigns of people. One's called Humane Tech out of Silicon Valley that are working towards changing legislation even around how technology is in our lives. And we know, and it's a great time to be talking about it because we know with like artificial intelligence and so much automation that's coming that we need to be talking about it right now before it gets going.
They take over.
Yeah. It gets going too far in the wrong direction. But so I think it's a simple thing to think about of like, this was enough for our ancestors, meeting and having a cup of coffee and being entertained and sharing stories and having a dinner party and experiencing time and space and love with each other. That was enough. And maybe why we're where we are today is because we've forgotten how important that really is, and everything else is just kind of noise and distraction. And
100%.
We got to get back to it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's interesting that some of the people that are coming from agrarian cultures now and that have, basic survival or living in impoverished areas where their family is really important. That's interesting that they're being maligned, but that's a lot of people are needing that, the family, the connection, and this. Yeah.
Well, there's this ton of studies, and I know some of them working in mental health, that we live longer, we're healthier, we have less physical and mental ailments if we have healthy relationships in our life. So let's think about that.
I know. Yes, it's crazy what's going on with all that. And you see people go out to dinner, they're all like this. Yeah. And then what's I kind of put all into spirituality. It reminds me of like the downfall of Atlantis, which they got too into electronics, if you believe in Atlantis and Lemuria, but they got too into electronics and stuff, and then they crashed themselves down with a big crystal pyramid something. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is it's coming up because humans need that connection. They need that. You see with the babies in the NICU, when I used to work in the hospital, they need the hands-on hands. And if everything is digitized, it's taking us away. It's more into the ego than the soul.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. Well, we are almost, our time together is almost over. We get to do one more thing together, though.
Okay.
So I like to issue a social challenge of the week, and it's just meant to help people stay in relationship with learning, really, like to just be open and present in all the things that we've talked about today, to just keep that relationship with learning there in a way that it's not me telling you how to have an experience. It's like, here, just try this, see if you have a different experience, which might lead to something else, might lead to inviting a friend into it. So when what I wrote down at the beginning of the show was something about sequence, like I was talking about just if you have a resistance to change, don't worry so much about I need to make big changes, but maybe just like pay attention to the sequence of how you go about your work, or how you get ready in the morning, or how you wind down at night to go to sleep. So what do you think about that? So I kind of want to co-create this with you.
Okay.
What do you think about that as a social challenge? Would you add anything to it, or is there something else that you're like, oh, you know what, this is what I want your listeners to do? I'm feeling like after our conversation, this is the challenge that I want to issue to the world.
Oh, yeah. I would think to meditate. Take 3 deep breaths in the morning and 3 deep breaths in the night, and at least 5 minutes, just sitting quiet with everything off, all the electronics off. and not looking for anything, not asking for anything, not trying to get any experience, just being quiet and being with self. And then over time, seeing what develops, but just to kind of spend time taking breaths, which is our spirit, reigniting in our body, and just 5 minutes of just quiet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to do both of them, I think, because we cannot be reminded enough to slow down and meditate.
Okay.
So I really like that. So you're encouraging people, like, it doesn't have to be sit down in 20 minutes and look like some yoga guru. Like, you're like, look, just wake up in the day. Do you recommend, is there a way that they should sit, or just take some breath?
Take 3 deep breaths, back straight, sitting in a chair or on the ground if you want to. And then, you can light a candle, some incense, sage yourself, and just make it a quiet space of just nothing for 5 minutes after you take the 3 deep breaths, and just sit. And then do it at night too to close it down, and your spirit will begin to be downloaded, and you'll have more of those incredible experiences, relatable experiences, more of those feelings of your spirit saying, I should help that person cross the street, or I should hold the elevator for this person, because your spirit is like a loving, giving part of you.
I like this. So you're really saying it's when you do it in the morning, you're really inviting spirit to walk with you.
Yes.
And when you do it at the end, you're shutting down anything that shouldn't maybe be there.
Yes,
right?
Yes, like the quiz.
I like this.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah, and you're giving the space of your spirit to kind of be more present in your life, because the spirit does connect to your breath. Because once the breath is gone, you're gone. So that breath is very sacred and precious. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful way to end this show. I feel very relaxed, and this was a great day.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so gled that we got to meet. And so as she mentioned, those great bits of knowledge that she shared with us today are in this book. So we'll be sure to share the link to the book, and there's a workbook to go along with it, so you can be in practice, not just read the book, but actually do some of these things and set new practices in your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
That brings us to another end of a show. As always, I want everybody to think about this. Like, how can you have a more exceptional encounter happen? Like, what are you doing to make that happen? How can you make that happen for you and for somebody else? So think about that. See you next week. Bye.